I think if you asked almost anyone what their favourite band costume was in a fighting game, you'd get the same answer: Blanka-chan. This adorable mascot version of Blanka is so popular it single-handedly raised Blanka's pick percentage in Street Fighter V compared to past games. But because it's hard to tell what Blanka's limbs are up to in his silly, Domo-esque costume, it's banned from ever being used in tournament. We did get to see Blanka in his Blanka-chan outfit in Street Fighter 6, but we don't yet have confirmation of whether or not this is a selectable costume, or if it's something that will remain ban-worthy when Street Fighter 6 comes around. But to seemingly preemptively address this issue, instead of costumes being the only way to involve the adorable Blanka-chan in your gameplay, they've turned him into a special attack. Blanka can toss a Blanka doll, and by using an electric move in contact with it, it will come to life and fly at the opponent and explode on them, using a different arc depending on what move charged the Blanka doll. People who have played a lot of fighting games will be familiar with this kind of attack. It's pretty common for joke characters, whether it's Faust's random donuts and mini Fausts, or Teddy throwing Metal Gears, or pretty much everything that damn cat does. But there's a pretty interesting dilemma that we've faced in modern fighting games with these characters. Namely, that new players hate being zoned out, and so traditional or untraditional forms of zoning and gimmick characters have all been sidelined and tend to perform very poorly in tier lists and balance in modern games. But Blanka in Street Fighter 6 has some new tools that make him much more viable and seem to counteract this phenomenon. A fairly long range grab and an air grab have made appearance that look way more usable than his existing grab in Street Fighter 5, as well as him gaining a dive kick like diagonal ball attack. As beloved as Blanka may be, and for how many appearances he's had in Street Fighter, he's almost never been top tier. But a great many of his core problems have been addressed with his appearance already. Adding a projectile and more ways to use his ball are great news for him and improve him a great deal compared to past games. But the one remaining fear I do have for Blanka is parrying. Probably the core reason that Street Fighter 3 doesn't have a Blanka-like character is that Blanka is laughably easy to parry. Not only are most of his moves unsafe normally when they're blocked, which to be fair looks massively addressed in 6, but he's a very predictable character due to his oddly specific strategy, which tends to be what fails him in most games, and parrying just massively exacerbates this issue, since it makes your punish windows much more open to getting significantly more damage. While it's clear that even when parried, EX dive ball is shockingly safe, which is huge for him, there's just not enough evidence yet for me to say that Blanka's in the clear of his potentially scary issue for him as a character. For those who don't know, Blanka has this very inflexible playstyle, where you can combo into his ball from his electricity, or combo an EX ball into another ball, and besides that, he can't do very much besides just slap the enemy. Blanka kind of wants to be near but not in the opponent's face, and just make it really annoying for the opponent to throw things out. He has very good methods of anti-airing and punishing people on prediction, but actually getting into and surviving in this range is a whole other struggle for him, and he's very heavily meter reliant in past games, and it's not like his ideal range isn't also the ideal range of over half the cast. He's not traditionally very strong in his strongest area, and his most iconic tools are ludicrously weak without spending meter. Street Fighter V's ways of addressing this are odd to say the least. A tool that has returned but turned into a super this time is his ground pound V skill. He could store a ground pound to go full screen or just do one close to him and use it to grab some specific punishes, and otherwise, to perform decently, all he had was his V trigger, where he can electrocute himself and make his Blanka ball go through projectiles, be used as a flash kick, or to steer himself through the air. And of course, this has also made many of these things safe when they weren't beforehand. While these are strong and they provide Blanka with much more oppressive gameplay than just his base toolset, they only compound the issue that I've been drilling into you this whole time. That being that Blanka is very over-dependent on meter. If you look at all the top tiers in Street Fighter V, almost all of them are fantastic without their V trigger, and some even without EX moves or V skills. Requiring a resource to be good puts you far behind the competition in most fighting games, as by right of needing a resource, you must build that resource in order to use it. And that leads me to two ways that Street Fighter 6 has addressed Blanka's core problems and made him much scarier than ever before. Reason number one is very easy to explain. You start rounds in Street Fighter 6 with a full drive gauge, and gauge is what powers your EX moves. Giving Blanka a safe way to get into his desired range and execute his game plan from the get-go every round is huge for him. This is a big deal for essentially everyone in Street Fighter 6, due to there not being a comeback mechanic. And most characters, sorry Jamie, don't need to use a super bar that they build up throughout the match in order to execute their strongest strategies. So unlike Street Fighter 5, there's no V-trigger and you don't even build a full super bar by getting hit. So you don't need to be low on health to access any of your resources. Good parries and hitting your opponent will reward you with everything that you could want. And secondly, it's actually to do with a third strike character that we haven't seen the return of in Street Fighter 6, Alex. Alex is debatably now top tier in Street Fighter 5 as of its final patch. His air grab and command grab are utterly insanely fast, strong and oppressive, and they show that the new team isn't scared to make these kind of tools strong. Which is funny because Street Fighter 5's Blanka's command grab looks quite similar to Alex's DDT, but I cannot stress enough just how bad this move is. If you're lucky and burn meter, you can punish a projectile with it. But Blanka's new grabs in Street Fighter 6 have essentially split this move into two, and they have significantly more range than any of the other command grabs and air grabs that we've seen so far in 6, such as Kimberly's, and presumably, much like Blanka-chan, this can probably be meter burned and used to floor bounce the opponent and combo off of it, and make Blanka's ideal range just that much scarier to be part of, having far surpassed his current, pathetically easy to react to command grab. And his cannonballs have also been made much faster now than before, even when meter burned. It looks like Blanka finally has an implementation that a character Stan can be proud of, and he might actually perform to a high standard and be very oppressive and fun to play when Street Fighter 6 comes out early next year. So what do you think? Could Blanka duke it out with Speed Queen Kimberly or deal with the red hot habanero Ken in Street Fighter 6? Leave a comment if you think I'm right or wrong, and as always, I'm going to round off by saying, stay safe.